I went on a solo trip to Vancouver, and it was an experience I will never forget. Before we get into the trip, I wanted to thank Ana Luisa for sponsoring today's video. I've been wearing their jewelry for over 3 years now, so I'm incredibly happy to be partnering with them. Ana Luisa crafts high-quality jewelry pieces at very affordable prices, and they provide free and fast shipping anywhere in the US. Some of my favorite pieces are the mini huggy hoops, the Toda double hoops, and the Sam necklace. I've owned these specific pieces for a few years now, and they're still in fantastic condition. Click the link in my description to shop my favorite high-quality, long-lasting, affordable jewelry you'll love at prices you'll love even more. Thank you again to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now let's get into the trip. I've gone out of town on my own a few times before, but it was either for work or to visit some friends. This was the first solo trip that I booked for myself, with only the intention to enjoy the city and my own company. One of the reasons why I picked Vancouver for my solo trip is because I've been wanting to visit the city for years. I'm also a big fan of the weather in the Pacific Northwest, so all of the signs are pointing me towards Vancouver. I'm an itinerary type of traveler, so you best believe that I planned out my entire trip. But I'm not super uptight on being at a certain place at a certain time. I like to take my time doing activities I plan for myself, and if things don't usually go to plan, it's always fun to be spontaneous. Although I love traveling with my friends, there were so many things I enjoyed about traveling by myself. I got to eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I got to do everything on my own time without needing to consider what everyone else wanted to do, see, or eat. I know that sounds kind of selfish, but as someone that's usually the mob of my group of friends, it was just really relaxing to not need to gather the herd to head off to the next destination. I used to have a fear of eating alone in public. I'm not sure why this is a commonality among a lot of people, but I got over that fear pretty recently. I've learned to really enjoy my own company in my late 20s, and I had no trouble eating by myself for most of this trip. I think we get so in our heads about what others are thinking of us, when in reality, people probably aren't even looking at us differently, and will probably never come across a majority of them ever again. It was nice and sunny out when I arrived to Vancouver, so I took the opportunity to walk around the neighborhood I was staying in and ended up grabbing some ice cream. I decided to start my next morning at a coffee shop. I walked to a spot a couple blocks away from my Airbnb, took some time to write down my daily affirmations, and enjoyed a nice latte and breakfast burrito. I wanted to explore both the outdoors and city life when I was in Vancouver. The hiking trails I explored were in North Vancouver, and the restaurants I really wanted to try were in the city. I googled some recs for activities and places to eat and decided that I really wanted to check out the suspension bridges. The Capilano Suspension Bridge was my first stop. After walking through the entire park, I ended up taking a little detour on my itinerary to check out the Cleveland Dam. As I was walking back to my car, I noticed a sign that said hatchery pointing in the opposite direction, so I decided to follow it to see where it took me. That sign took me on a little trek through the middle of nowhere, and I ended up at the Capilano Salmon Hatchery. I unfortunately didn't see any salmon, but I got to enjoy this entire place to myself. For dinner, I went to a sushi spot nearby called J&L Sushi and Kitchen. I ordered chicken karage and a salmon and tuna combo that came with miso soup and a hot tea. The one downside of solo traveling is not being able to order as many things as I'd like to try from the menu. What can I say? My eyes are always bigger than my stomach. The next day, I made my way over to downtown Vancouver. One of my favorite memories of this trip was renting a bike and riding it around Stanley Park. This park is completely surrounded by the water, and there's a running/biking trail along the seawall that had such an incredible view. I really loved how bike-friendly and runner-friendly this park is. There are plenty of spots in the park to visit, but I think biking around the seawall was a great choice for me to see a little bit of everything. The downtown area of Vancouver is incredibly walkable, so I did walk to most of the locations I went to. For lunch, I walked to Hello Nori, a hand-roll bar that blew me away. I personally thought it was better than Kazu Nori out here in LA. After lunch, I was craving a little something sweet, so I grabbed a couple of pastries at Brecca. The London Fog Donut was absolutely amazing. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I wanted to continue exploring downtown Vancouver, so I took a ferry over to Granville Island. I was pretty full from lunch, so I decided not to grab anything to eat, but I did manage to find a couple of souvenirs to take home with me. After walking around for a few hours, I decided to head back and make my way over to dinner. Now, my favorite meal from the entire trip was the ramen at Ramen Danbo. It could have been the excitement from traveling, but this was one of the best bowls of ramen I've ever had. After dinner, I said goodbye to downtown Vancouver and made my way back to the Airbnb. Breakfast the next morning was a bagel and cream cheese. If y'all know me in real life, you know I love a good bagel.
So good.
It started pouring as I pulled up to the first trail. I sat in the trunk of my car, putting on my hiking shoes, wondering if this hike was going to be possible, and eventually just made my way toward the trail.
It's freaking cold.
I got to see the Lynn Canyon Suspension Bridge and somehow managed to get lost on this trail. I figured it would be safest just to turn around and walk back from where I came from, and everything turned out fine. After that first trail, I stopped by a famous donut spot called Honey Donuts. I grabbed a classic honey, and it was such an interesting donut. It was cakey, sticky, and sweet, but not too sweet. I wandered towards a little dock nearby and just enjoyed the views and the sound of the rain. Once I finished up my coffee, I was ready to take on the next hike. This trail had a lot of stairs. I was ready to take on the incline, but I was not expecting there to be so many stairs along the way. It made it easier to navigate because I knew exactly where I was headed, but the stairs might have put me out of breath a lot sooner than I had anticipated. I really loved this trail because there were so many small waterfalls throughout the entire hike. And the view at the top was absolutely breathtaking. I don't know if you can see from the still, but that is where I was earlier at the dock. I didn't even know that when I was at the dock that I could see where my endpoint of the hike would be. My friends Simon and Johnny also happened to be in Vancouver the same weekend, so we met up and grabbed dinner together. Solo traveling was really nice, but ending the trip with some familiar faces felt very comforting to me. And that concludes my solo trip. I have so much more of the world I'd love to see, and I think this solo trip gave me the courage to explore more cities on my own. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to click the link in my description to shop my favorite Ana Luisa pieces. Until next time!